Hey, what is going on, guys? It's your boy Lando from The Snap, joined by producer Scott. And congrats for making it to the semifinals. We are here on Christmas Eve, grinding out the start hits with y'all. So thank you for coming by. Scotty, how are you doing, my friend? You are all decked out in Minnesota Vikings gear.
Well, first of all, I didn't know if you were, congratulating everybody, all of our viewers for making the semifinals, or me for making the semifinals, as I bested you last week in the Big Keeper League. But yes, I'm wearing all the Vikings gear as Kirk Cousins, and an instrumental, biggest comeback in NFL history was essential in my quarterfinal match, and I'm hoping that they have another big passing day in them today to get me through to the finals. I'm sure there are storylines like that for all our viewers all over the place. And with the crazy once in a generation snowstorm that I'm in the middle of, I can only imagine the weather implications and things we have to talk about today.
We need to discuss the weather today, but yes, Scott, you outed me in our big 16 team league. You always hate it when you score the second most points in the league and you go up against the juggernaut that was Kirk Cousins and George Kittle and company. So I put up a valiant effort. I'd never thought I would really get in, come close to you after the Cousins and Kittle game. But, these choices that I made on the waiver wire were not good enough to best you. But either way, we are here answering every single question as always. Thanks for coming in. Should be a good live stream. Mackenzie might be showing up here eventually today. That would be lovely as a little Christmas surprise, but is traveling in the weather. So he was delayed. He was supposed to be here, but either way, it'd be nice to see him, but I don't expect him to do it because he has to make a 4-hour drive today up north in Northern Ontario. So I don't expect to see him today.
Yeah, like anyone who has to any traveling this weekend knows. It'll be a nice surprise if he can, but very understandable if he cannot.
One thing Scott and I will talk about are the weather reports. So we need to take that in consideration. We need to sometimes you might need to sit your studs down when there's weather involved. We'll start with the Houston at Tennessee game. You know what? No, we'll start with the New Orleans at Cleveland game because that is the most harsh weather. It's the ugliest weather of the week. 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, gusts over 40. Field goals are basically a no-go. The passing game is basically a no-go. There aren't too many players you want to start except the defenses and maybe the running backs here. So Nick Chubb, we were concerned about him earlier in the week. He didn't practice throughout the week, but is expected to play. We thought Kareem Hunt might be a full go. He might still be a good option. So if as a flex spot, I don't mind Kareem Hunt. I don't mind a Alvin Kamara, but it's probably not going to happen in the passing game for him. It's going to be running game, and we know he hasn't been very efficient. So what are you doing here with any Cleveland Browns or Saints, Scotty?
That part is tough. I mean, like you said, I woke up to read a NFL policy change this morning for the home game in Cleveland, where the super capitalistic NFL is in fact allowing fans to bring in their own, thermoses and everything like that, charged battery packs to keep their powered, heated clothing warm. That lets you know when the NFL's allowing people, those coolers are going to be 90% whiskey and 10% hot chocolate. Like when they're allowing people to actually bring in their own outside drinks, that should let you know the type of cold that they're planning for in Ohio. So I am starting the Cleveland defense this week. It was my top waiver ad, and I'm excited from a fantasy owner perspective to see how they play. I'm also starting Peoples Jones at wide receiver, and I'm terrified of what's going to happen there. I am still debating for myself. It's it's Chark there in Detroit or Peoples Jones, but I would be quite concerned. I am quite concerned about starting any wide receivers in that game. I mean, they do have to have some offense, so I don't think cold.
Do they though?
There has to be some. They have to try to have some offense.
Yeah,
if
in
you
the
rode,
run game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you rode, for Peoples Jones, it's gonna have to be like an 8-yard catch touchdown like last week, where I think he got 35 yards, about 1 touchdown. I wouldn't steer away from the running backs. It's cold and it hurts when you get tackled. You know what? Trying to tackle Nick Chubb in 0-degree Fahrenheit weather, that's also not very appealing. So I could see the running backs having a pretty good game.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to sway you too much, Scotty, in your quarterfinal or your semifinals, but I would very much consider DJ Chark in this matchup over Peoples Jones. But we'll see if the weather truly lives up to it.
Carried me here. That's the tough part.
And that's where you need to be. You need to pivot. I mean, the weather has a massive, massive implication this week that regardless of who got you here, you need to make those tough decisions. And if you do get bit by, like, is really Peoples Jones or any Cleveland wide receiver going to win you your matchup? No, like their upside is basically toast. Now, you do play in a league. Our league does have kickoff return yards, I think, involved with it. So there is a chance that you could get lucky with like a super short punt into the wind and he brings it back for a touchdown. There's that. But I mean, the probability is just so negligible that everything would need to go right. And so far things have gone right for you. So I suppose we will see.
Maybe a Christmas miracle.
The second worst game of the week is the Buffalo Bills at Chicago Bears. And this is another tough one where I think you can start running backs in this game and then Stephon Diggs. And the quarterbacks, obviously, start Fields and Josh Allen with confidence. And I do think you could start Singletary or James Cook as well because of the Chicago Bears defense being so susceptible to the rush. But you have to start Stephon Diggs. But besides that, I don't want to start really anyone because every other option in Buffalo relies on the pass. Like Gabe Davis would be your other consideration. I will be sitting down Gabe Davis because of the lack of throwing in this game, most likely. So I would look to other options from Gabe Davis, like a Darius Slayton, for example. I would go to Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith. Those options I would prefer over Gabe this week. And I don't think there's anyone in the passing attack for Chicago that you want. We know that Justin Fields doesn't throw much anyways. So just stick with David Montgomery, and that's pretty much it. Scotty, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's, really, unless you're in dire straits, the weather games can come into play a lot. And the running backs are obviously the safer option. They're a higher risk for fumble. I like to, you do think those type of games, but I could see their usage usually spiking because, especially in those situations where in a fair weather game, you might be trying a little trickery, play action, passes. I do think coaches, especially with the state of where some of these games are in the races, I think you'll see coaches just trying to get the ball across into the end zone and not get too cute.
A game that's going to impact you, Scotty, the Texans Titans game is being pushed back an hour due to power outages in the area. So you're going to have to wait to see Derrick Henry run all over the Houston Texans a little bit longer.
Can you imagine Derrick Henry running at you and then everything goes dark? Oh my God.
That's a nightmare. That is a nightmare.
It's already a nightmare trying to tackle that guy. Imagine a rolling blackout.
I do want to shout out Griff and Kicks for Mike coming by on Christmas Eve. Thank you for coming by. It might be a slow episode. I mean, everyone's spending time with your family. I highly encourage everyone to do that. I will be doing that very shortly. But next game I do want to discuss before we start answering some questions is the Kansas City at Chiefs. The Seattle at Kansas City Chiefs game. So cold game, but Kenneth Walker, Scotty, has been banged up. He is expected to play, but I am concerned with him. He came down with some back spasms this week. I think he's a high-risk player this week. Now, last week we faded Ramondre Stevenson, and look what happened. His ankle was fine. He had one of his career rushing yards. Kenneth Walker has the talent. Last week we faded him. He turned out to be okay due to a last minute, I think it was a reception, or it could have been just a run, like a 30-yard run.
Yeah, he turned it on in the second half to make fantasy owners at least like he wasn't going to lose you his week. He wasn't going to win you your week by any stretch. But his second half, couple catches,
it didn't lose you exactly. He didn't lose.
Got you to that 10-ish point threshold.
Yeah. Ken Walker, Scotty, what is your confidence level with him? Injuries are always a tough scenario. We're not a doctor. We just play one on YouTube. But what do you do with Ken Walker? Do you have confidence in him because it's a very plus matchup? We know he's a very good talent, but the injury is what concerns me.
Yeah, watching him last week, he didn't look injured. And I mean, he very well could be, but I found it like, as you know, even though he was on your bench, it was game script. There was a whole bunch of other things going on there. It was that San Francisco D. It was all those things that led to his mediocre, kind of at best day. So if I had him, and depending on my other options, I would still be looking to plug him in, because if injuries are your concerns, but then when he hits the field, he still was able to do a passable fantasy day against one of the elite defenses in the league. As long as he's active and he looks good in warmups and there's no indication that, he's some sort of decoy, I think you probably got to roll with him depending on what your other options are.
Yeah. So I think if this stream ever gets popular, that might be a popular question. But either way,
Christmas Eve
might not have been the call today, but either way, we'll find out. If Kicks for Mike is still around, he's asking DeAndre Hopkins or J.K. Dobbins. DeAndre Hopkins is the leading receiver right now since he's been back, Scotty. However, we do have a backup quarterback for Arizona. I am very, very worried for the pass catchers for the Cardinals. Are you believing that J.K. Dobbins is back? It looks like the Ravens are running the ball so effectively and so smoothly, and then you have a high risk, high reward play in DeAndre Hopkins. How do you figure this question in a full PPR league where typically the receiver wins out?
And this is what you love about the NFL. I mean, this would have been you think to the start of the season, this would have made a lot of sense. And now it still makes a lot of sense, but for all the different reasons, right? Dobbins has looked great since he came back, and Hopkins is Hopkins, but that backup quarterback, I mean, it really is affecting everything. It's part of the reason I'm starting James Conner with relative confidence, because I'm fully expecting them to feed him and try to take a lot of the risk out of the situation. It's really hard to say, sit Hopkins down, because it's Hopkins. But I do think this is quite close. Especially with we were looking at the Baltimore weather earlier as well, and this is not something that in my mind should necessarily sway anything. But it is outdoors, it's in Baltimore, and there's going to be some wind. Their whole quarterback situation there. I could see a run heavy game.
Absolutely. Tampa Bay's defense looks good for about 2 quarters, and besides that, it's very susceptible to everything. But I'm starting Dobbins here.
Yeah, like I said, crazy. You rewind to the start of the season, it's not that crazy of a question at all. And you'd probably be saying, oh, Dobbins is looking great, back from injury, boom, Baltimore, that run offense. And here we are. We're still saying, Baltimore offense, that run heavy run offense more. You don't want any wide receivers. You barely can start Mark Andrews, but the running back makes a lot of sense. Where, in Arizona right now, really the running back's the only thing I want a piece of, and most of that is just I have to assume they're going to rely on him, and there's next to nobody else outside of Connor. So kind of shows where those two offenses are standing.
Perfect. Sleek coming in. Merry Christmas Eve. Happy holidays, everyone. The normals are coming in here. We just need to stay on, and everyone will join us. So I appreciate you coming in.
I mean, you can only hang out with your family for so long, man, and then you want to go talk some football.
Well, that's the thing, right? Y'all have got the notification. It took a few minutes, approximately 15, to sneak away. Now you're here with the snap. You snuck away. Sleek. This, in theory, should be easy. Jalen Waddle should be the answer, but I think it's more difficult because in Indianapolis, they have a new Nick Foles quarterback, which I quite like that. And the Chargers defense is pretty good too. I mean, this is like, as in pretty susceptible to everything, the run, the pass, everything. I'm still going to start Jalen Waddle. I think it should be a shootout game. I like Michael Pittman in full PPR. He got a ton of targets last week. They were just very shallow depth of target. I'm going to start the stud Jalen Waddle. He's one of the best young wide receivers in the league. One of my favorite dynasty wide receivers. I like Pittman. I'm going to Pittman in a couple spots, but neither of these games, Sleek, are majorly impacted by the weather. So I love that. Both are good options, but I am going to stick with the stud Jalen Waddle, especially if you're behind in it, if you're favored to lose, if you started a Garrett Wilson or Zay Jones on Thursday, I would go with the upside on Jalen Waddle. I don't know if Michael Pittman has the upside that we once thought. Scotty, are you in agreement?
Full agreement. I do like Nick Foles start, and I do think that lots of times it's like, oh, that's such a downgrade for the wide receiver. Absolutely not. But there's a lot of variables there. What type of system will they be running? Who will he be targeting? Usually, when you see, especially in fantasy, that's almost its own narrative. When you switch the quarterback, sometimes they come out of the gates with a favorite, and it's not who, you almost have to throw a lot of the analytics out of the window for at least a week or two and let it settle to see who is his guy, what are the routes he's looking for, and then you get a bit of a pattern. So there is that chaos factor, even if I think Nick Foles is a terrific quarterback, and he should be probably still a starter in the NFL, and now he is. So yeah, I agree with you on that front though.
Okay. Mackenzie coming in here, probably in the car up north, getting a taste of the north, has a tough question. Taysom Hill or TJ Hawkinson? This might be Mac. I might hear Mac coming here. That would be lovely.
Ooh, we could answer his question in the flesh.
I actually quite like Taysom Hill this week. I think the game script lends really well to the run game and the gadget game for the Saints. But in a full PPR league, TJ Hawkinson feels like the correct play. He's extremely talented. He's got the drops lately, Scotty. I mean, you're watching the Vikings play. It's not a great. He hasn't been overly good. I will still go TJ Hawkinson, but I very much like Taysom Hill as a flex play. He's playing quarterback. He's playing running back. He's all over the map. They don't like giving every opportunity to Alvin Kamara. I think Taysom Hill might be kind of a weak winner. It's high. Like, he could also do nothing, but I think he's going to have a good game today. So
yeah,
I would go.
It's closer than I think a lot of other weeks would be. I would still be starting TJ Hawkinson. I mean, yes, he has dropped a few. Most of them were more like would have extended the drive and dropped them, when he would have had a first on like 3rd and 7, which for the Vikings is huge. For fantasy, I still think he obviously is an elite tight end option at the position, which is just paper thin. I agree that the game script and what we talked about earlier with what's going to be happening in Cleveland does lead well to kind of the gadget play that Taysom Hill is. But as always, it is a risk, because what if those gadgets go awry? And, what if it doesn't work? What if the plays it's always one of those things where if it works, you look like a genius. And if it gets stopped in the back in 8 yards back from the line of scrimmage, and that was kind of his play of the quarter, then it's definitely risky. But if you've got Hawkinson, I would still roll him out. Not to say I'm biased.
Having a dome game this week is the tiebreaker for me in just about every scenario. If you have a game that is in a dome, that's where I'm going to lean in most scenarios. Now, there are going to be outliers, and that's why we're here to answer those tough questions. But I love weather controlled area right in this time of year, in this weekend. Julio, what is up? Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Pacheco or Pollard? So Tony Pollard was so good. Zeke Elliott is scoring the touchdowns lately, which is really limiting Pollard's upside. The game script, in theory, is good because of the backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew, for the Eagles. Tough defense. But if the Eagles have short drives, 3 and outs, that will give Dallas Cowboys the opportunity to have the time of possession higher, which should lead to Tony Pollard having tons of opportunities. I'm expecting 15 to 18 opportunities, a couple through the air, mostly on the ground, 14 attempts on the ground, maybe 4 or 5 targets. But Pacheco has been limited by Jerick McKinnon, obviously.
I was going to say, yeah.
Jerick McKinnon is the running back one the past few weeks. I do think, in theory, that Seattle, he'll get the opportunity against Seattle. They have one of the worst rush defenses in the league, and that seems to be Pacheco's realm, is the handoff back. I still lean Pollard, Scotty, but it's closer than it probably should be. What are your thoughts on Pacheco? Do you think that you should just go away from him and the only back to start is McKinnon, or is there a realm where Pacheco could be started?
I mean, it's all relative, obviously, to your other options, but you're talking.
Those are 2 options.
Oh, yes. No. I meant in this specific situation, I'm going Pollard.
Right.
And yes, you are talking to someone who ousted Mack in the OG Snap League in the playoffs last week because of Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon, to me, you can talk weather, you can talk defenses. Jerick McKinnon has been stealing so many fantasy points away from Pacheco. I think he's a bigger threat than Zeke is to Pollard in that offense. So, I'd still be rolling out Pollard as I think the consensus across, everyone who watches these games. Pollard is the better back. He's more explosive. It's just the fantasy game script is always a little unfortunate because Zeke is, they like to call him the elite red zone back that they put in, and he can get across the end zone. But with Jerick McKinnon's no joke. He's been siphoning a ton of fantasy points away from Pacheco, and that could happen this week, where I see Pollard is a staple of that Dallas offense. Yeah.
Ben coming in here with the first Amari Cooper question of the day. And we have Adam Thielen here but possibly Adam Thielen's not what he used to be. He's a top 30-ish consideration for a wide receiver. Amari Cooper with Deshaun Watson has not been good. Very, very disappointing. However, before that, he was a certified stud. He was a wide receiver one, getting PPR points, getting touchdowns, everything. But since the all-star Deshaun Watson's back, it has not been the case. Scotty, I am leaning the Viking Adam Thielen in this matchup, but it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, both of these situations don't feel great. The Vikings game is definitely going to have better weather. You're also throwing Amari Cooper in to a very cold, winter, windy, blustery game. Adam Thielen has managed to stay relevant in fantasy circles because, as we know, he's mostly targeted in the red zone.
Yeah, and I don't 3 touchdowns over the last 4 games. But those were his, not the first of the year, but first in a while.
No, like I said, over the past stretch, he has remained relevant because, you look at his receptions to touchdown ratios, you definitely see he is targeted as a prime red zone threat, which makes sense with Justin Jefferson being usually just, gang tackled as he runs past the end zone there. So I also think it's tough. I don't feel great saying Thielen because it's not a volume play. And you better hope those couple red zone plays he gets, hopefully in the game he catches.
You couldn't have asked for a better game script last week, and he finished 3 for 41. He got in the end zone, but yardage-wise...
Kirk Cousins, NFC Offensive Player of the Week. What do you go over? 400 yards passing. And Thielen's numbers not impressive. So it's tough all over. But with the weather and everything, I do think I would be leading.
I'm leaning Thielen in the good weather game. So Ben, good luck, my friend. In most scenarios, I am benching every Cleveland Brown besides the running backs. Julio also is asking Aaron Rodgers or Brady. Both are actually in quite good spots this week. Brady's been throwing over 50 attempts per game. I think this is a very good spot for Tom Brady. But so is Aaron Rodgers against Miami in a high over-under game. Aaron Rodgers has not been a good fantasy quarterback. It's straight up. He's been, I think, a quarterback one time on the year, or maybe zero. We want to say in theory, like these guys were fantasy superstars years ago. Both have the big name. Both are in good spots this week. I think I lean Aaron Rodgers by a little bit, but not by a lot. It's basically because Miami can keep up, and it could be a bit of a shootout game. Whereas Arizona, I have questions whether they can keep up with Trace McSorley at quarterback. Tom could easily throw 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, no problem. But that's the same scenario for Aaron Rodgers. It's coin flip for me. Where do you lean, Scotty? Be a voice of reason here.
Yeah, I also lean Aaron Rodgers, mostly because there is that neither defense is particularly, troubling in my mind. So with, Watson finding his stride there, really Green Bay starting to look a little more coherent there on offense. And then you've got just one of the most entertaining, if not the most entertaining offense in Miami. I do just think there's a much higher chance of a shootout. And I think everybody would love to see a shootout. It's in Miami. Weather's warm. No reason not be able to sling the rock. And just for the chance that you're going to get some 35-42 finish or something, I also would be going Aaron Rodgers because a Miami Green Bay shootout would be just so good for all fantasy parties involved. And, even AJ Dillon, he's playing, but as we all know, he left early in the fourth or in the concussion protocol. So they might be looking to pass a little bit more than normal because they probably don't want to risk their young potential running back of the future to too many carries.
All right. Merry Christmas. Easy. Snap Army member. Thanks for coming by. As always, he has a question. Montgomery or Jamal Williams, full PPR projected to lose. So this is a tough one. Montgomery has been getting almost all of the work for Chicago. Now, Khalil Herbert is out, or is back in. I'm not starting
he's
Khalil
active
Herbert.
Off IR.
I would not recommend starting Khalil Herbert. It's a tough matchup for Montgomery. Jamal Williams has not been scoring the touchdowns like he used to. I think he might still lead the league in touchdowns if I'm not mistaken, but either way, he's at 1 or 2. Jamal just hasn't been getting it done. Detroit plays whom, Scotty? Oh, Carolina. And their defense has been a little bit better as of late.
Yeah, they're no joke. I think they're hovering around like, I think they're at least around like 8th or against the pass or something.
I think I lean Montgomery in the game script of rushing the football, and Montgomery will get all of the work. The PPR factor doesn't matter because neither of those running backs catch the football. But I'm going to go with Montgomery. There is a world where Jamal Williams scores 2 touchdowns. I don't see that happening this week, but I'm going to go Montgomery.
Yeah, I'm going to go Montgomery as well. Williams really is that almost ultimate high risk, high reward. Like you said, there's always the chance that he gets the 2 touchdowns. Remember the 3 touchdown game. And, of course, he has 6 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Obviously Herbert coming back off the IR, there is the chance that he cuts into the yardage at least a little bit. But I think one of the biggest changes is Detroit's become one of the better passing teams in the NFL, where when they had a lot of their wide receivers injured, they weren't one of, looking like almost the greatest show on turf again, with all the receivers streaking down the field. And I do think now that for a guy like Williams, you really have to hope that they're going to get tackled at that 1 or the 2 yard line, because if they just keep catching actual touchdowns, I don't think the value is there that was early in the season when, if you remember, Detroit was just kind of trying to leg it out and push it over, and now they're super hard to cover in the secondary. So I would also be going Montgomery because it almost feels like another Thielen discussion. Like, you better make it in from the few 1 yard line rushes he gets if you're going to be starting Williams.
You're going to have to rely on those goal line touches for sure.
Yeah.
If y'all are coming in on Christmas, make sure to drop a like. There's 16 people watching. Appreciate y'all coming in. Toss a like. If you do want to give a thank you to the Snap and you want to get your question answered right away, go back to your family, toss us a super chat. It means a lot to us, and a little Christmas present for the boys. And Mac is traveling in frigid weather. It would just make his day. Gator fan, kind of a theoretical question. philosophical. He has been asking these questions in the listener leagues, in the Discord, kind of, and he's very stuck in between. And when it's this scenario, it's hard to make the right decision because you're back and forth all day, stuck between 2 to 3 players of who to play for one slot. People say go with your gut, but how do you just choose without overthinking? Sounds like Gator fan is already overthinking, so that's too late. For me this week, Gator fan, I'm going to go with the dome games if you can. Any weather control games as a general rule of thumb to go with those games. If none of your options are in a dome and you're always considering that, go with health. So if your players are injured or banged up, there's always that chance that they don't get the ball and they go out. So weather and then health number 2, and then really look at the projected win total as well. It's very hard to project game script. You can go down narrative street all you want, but the Vegas lines are the best in the world. I mean, they're so difficult to find a line and an advantage over Vegas. So look at that. More points, more opportunities, more scores, gives you more touchdowns. We know that touchdowns really puts you over the top. So, and then, yeah, I mean, if you had a lean to start, that is, I guess, my other option is just go with a player that you like the most. Go with the player who got you there. Scott plays fantasy with his heart more than anything. So
I have no argument for you there. I will say I at least dropped the Minnesota Vikings D, so you can.
Congrats for that.
It only took 14 weeks.
They're only the 30th ranked defense, and you kept them on your team for 14 weeks, 15 weeks.
School, baby.
There you go. So you can also follow your heart there, Gator fan. So you can go with a guy that got you there and got you to the playoffs. So good luck, my friend. Claire, Merry Christmas. We had a great match last week. She's a great member in our listener league, but she is one of the best fantasy players I know. So thank you for coming in, Claire. Always coming in. I'm prepping for more injuries for next week. Who do you like for the most upside for the remainder of the playoffs to hoard from opponents? She's got Zach Moss.
I love this part of the fantasy.
Deion Jackson or Tyler Algier. Absolutely. Blocking your opponents, not letting them
taking the players, even if you don't need them so they can't get them. That is the spite is my favorite part of the playoffs.
Absolutely. So
her super spite her league.
I'm going to look at these game times here because that factors things in. If you can hoard them until the games start, watch them play and then drop them. That's probably what I would like to do, especially for the Indianapolis Colts players. You have Zach Moss and Deion Jackson. And that game time is when? When is that game time? Oh, no, that's on Monday. So you really, geez. So I guess you can watch Tyler Algier. Hopefully you're not forcing to start him. Watch them play against the Ravens. If he has a bad game and doesn't look the part, not getting the opportunities, then you can drop him. The Falcons don't have much to play for. He wasn't a very highly drafted rookie, although he's been good with the opportunities. And then right now, my lean between Zach Moss and Deion Jackson is Deion Jackson. I think that with JT going out last game and Zach Moss getting more opportunities is more of an outlier. I do think that Deion Jackson will be mostly the lead back. That's what we saw earlier in the season. He also catches some passes. So if you're in a PPR league, that helps. Zach Moss, I just don't really believe in. He got traded away from the Bills. And I don't think he's a guy that they even want to see anything from him. I don't think they want to see his potential even. So if I'm dropping one guy, it's going to be Zach Moss. But I do want to see Tyler Algier play. If he gets a ton of opportunities against Baltimore, has a good game, you keep him. And if he doesn't, if he gets hurt, then you just drop him and you can keep both Colts and wait for Monday for that game. Scotty, we don't need to really go in depth here, but what do you think?
I think the spite is strong, buddy. That's a good strategy. And yeah, Claire, I love that you're not just looking for your positional advantage. You want to take it one step further and make sure that you're limiting your potential matchups for next week. At this point, that's how you win. Yeah, absolutely. No days off. No days off.
Absolutely. Snap Army member Eric has another question. Pick 2, 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. Deontay Johnson, Gabe Davis, Goddard, KJ Osborne, Marquise Goodwin. So we saw Deontay Johnson have a couple good games with Trubisky, but we have Kenny Pickett coming back. That's a tough one. In most scenarios, you could probably put Deontay Johnson back on your bench. However, you don't have very good other options easy. Deontay's playing in a weather game as well. Gabe Davis in a big weather game. Goddard coming back off of IR. And typically you don't want to start a tight end in your flex. Tight ends, like we've seen all season long, have been terrible for the most part, except for the odd spike from Kittle, really, and Juwan Johnson and these random tight ends that can't be relied on. Travis Kelce is the only tight end that's really of relevance. So I'd prefer not to start Goddard in my flex spot. What do you do from this list, Scotty? Give me what do you thought? Do you just start Deontay because he's the most talented? Or you start Gabe Davis because of that big potential, but the terrible weather game? Typically, that's where I would have went.
Yeah, without all the other factors, I think that would have been it. And you do have to throw in, I mean, once again, in that game of 400 yards passing, there was a lot of yards to go around, but Osborne looked pretty good. It's tough, but I still think I would probably lean Johnson and looking at it's hard to sit down Gabe Davis, but he's already a week-to-week risk as it is, and then you throw in that
the weather.
So it's tough. I do think I think I'd have to out of this list. I at least have to get Johnson, I think, started. And
Marquise Goodwin was pretty good last week. He was on the injury report early. I think he'll have an opportunity, but he's far from a guarantee play. I'm not going to chase the KJ Osborne game, despite being in a controlled environment.
He also got injured in that game last week. Like anyone was watching it. Yeah, I mean, it could have just been cramps and exhaustion from how long that game went. But yeah, by the end, he was in pretty rough shape.
He was on the injury report this week.
Oh, they must have had 8 different players go down with cramping just from how long that game went. So, but it does throw a little extra wrinkle in there because usually that's such an easy. You just don't even consider him, but you'd be chasing points and he could go back to being a relatively negligible fantasy option. So,
all right. Hopefully we helped you there, Eric. That was a tough one. Alex coming in, championship week for you. Oh, interesting.
Ooh, congrats.
So, yeah, congrats on that. Half PPR, Mixon versus New England or McKinnon versus Seattle. Also, Herbert versus Colts off bad fantasy game last week, or Fields versus Buffalo. Ooh, those are some excellent questions, Alex. And this is championship week, so congrats on getting to the finals. You've got some tough ones because I want to believe in Justin Herbert. He's one of the top-ranked quarterbacks for me this week. Justin Fields, it has that upside of the rushing and the fact that they won't throw much in Buffalo, or it's in Chicago against Buffalo. In theory, my rankings say, Alex, that you should start Justin Herbert, but I think I might just go for the gusto and go with Fields there.
Yeah, it's really hard to sit Justin Fields down this season. Like after what we've seen, if his health is even 80%, it's just he could get one scamper that just makes makes the whole week look like a no-brainer.
Probably not going to pass for any touchdowns, so that
you are relying quite heavily on his legs, but at least the weather and the game script, you would imagine, he'll be looking to go with his legs before he looks to the air.
Yeah. You're hoping he gets that Jalen Hurts game from last week where he rushes for that many touchdowns, where if they get in the goal line, you might be worried because Montgomery might get in. And Buffalo's defense is good. So Herbert would be my ranking start. And just trust that.
Yeah, against that Colts defense, I do think Herbert is the mathematical, statistical, take your heart out of it, and that would be the start. Yeah, but just recognizing it is hard sitting down Justin Fields the way he's playing when healthy as a fantasy quarterback.
And then Alex, you have that they have that Monday sweat of your championship relying on Justin Herbert's shoulders on Monday, which is just terrible. But good luck. And then Mixon versus McKinnon. Mixon has been very bad. He has not been good. I think you just have to stay in the flames with Jerick McKinnon against Seattle. Really good matchup. he has that range of outcomes where he could bust you, and then it's an Isaiah Pacheco game. But I think you have to stay with McKinnon. Mixon has not earned his spot over McKinnon at this point in the season, Alex.
No, McKinnon's been in and you love to see it, really. What a comeback story for a player who, when he was on the Vikings, looked like he had a lot of talent, and we all know how the injury train, everything ran there, and now he's looking explosive. So I agree. You might probably spent a lot on Mixon, and it's just crazy to say in championship week, but I actually have more faith the way McKinnon's playing against that Seattle defense.
We have 18 people watching. Toss a like on the video. Thank you for coming by. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. We will get to Gary here right now. We have Christian Watson. I actually quite like Christian Watson. I would absolutely start him over Palmer, Jones, and Sutton. No question. He is currently your wide receiver 2. I don't think you second guess this. Start Christian Watson.
I got nothing else to add to that. I think Christian Watson, now that he's connected with Aaron Rodgers over the past second half of the season, he looks phenomenal. And I'm excited for Green Bay Packers fans there after losing Adams the way they did.
Yeah, totally. Drake, Andrews, Waller, or Taysom Hill, full PPR. Waller got in the end zone last week. Andrews has been terrible. And Taysom Hill, like I mentioned earlier, Drake, I think he has a ton of potential this week. But how tough it would be to start a Taysom Hill that has basically a 0 floor to a certified stud, 2 studs really, with the big names of Andrews and Waller. Scotty, you're the tight end whisperer. What do you do?
This might be the question of the week, because like you said, the tight end position is just paper thin. When you see tight end touchdowns these days, you said it's like a dice roll. Half the names you don't actually know who they are. These Waller and Andrews are 2 of these certifiable every week starts when they're healthy. Waller's back. They're not passing very much in Baltimore.
Nope, not with.
I can't bring myself to actually start Taysom Hill over 2 certifiable tight end 1 options, especially in the weather game that we talked about. Boy, so to me, it's definitely, you ride with the tight end ones, in my opinion. So it's down to Mark Andrews or Waller. Waller got a touchdown last week, coming back. Andrews had a bit of the drops. I'm
going Mark Andrews.
I think I got to go Mark Andrews too. But man, that's probably the question of the week, because there's very few options out there, and he's got 3.
My boy, Nicholas Solomon, Merry Christmas. Thanks for coming by.
Merry Christmas, Nick.
Fournette or Swift. Projections still look decent for me. With both wide receivers flopping on Thursday. You hate to see that. I know he started Garrett Wilson, and it didn't work out great. So Fournette looks like he got more of the work. He got the targets over Rachaad White last week. Do we actually see that happening again? Can he out-snap, out-target Rachaad White? It's a tough one. I lean Swift here, but do you have an argument for Fournette, Scotty?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I was watching the game there too, as I am a Fournette owner in League of Record. And it did look like they were, it's tough. Every week they seem to kind of go back. Like White's the exciting guy, but Fournette does seem to get, especially that closer to the red zone look if they can. I think the difference for me is that I do think I'd go Swift, because I really do think Detroit is leaning on the passing game. But for a guy like Swift, when you're talking about earlier on in the season, like we discussed, the reason that Williams was getting the most touchdowns in the league was because I do think they were trying to be more run heavy, where Swift, as we know, is one of the elite options out of in the pass game for a running back. So I think I'd go with him for that part, because I could see him getting, yak. I think he could get a lot of points off yak this year, or this week.
And I mean, Detroit's a fun team to cheer for as well. They look like they're making the playoffs. Yes, Merry Christmas to you, Drake. Thanks. We got Griff coming in, Snap Army member. Dobbins, Walker, McKinnon, standard picking 2. I'm gonna go with Dobbins and McKinnon to get the risk out of Walker here. I am a little bit concerned with his back spasms. I just think I'm concerned. I love Ken Walker. He's one of my favorite players. but I'm going to go away from him this week. Scotty?
Yeah, I think with those other two options, I do think I would take the risk out of the equation. But like you said, it is very close. And Walker.
Who would you set if you're going to start Walker? Who would you set besides McKinnon or Dobbins?
There's a lot going on there, but I do think McKinnon has actually been a really great option. So I may actually be starting him over. It's tough to say that way. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to pivot. No, I would go Dobbins and Walker, I think. If
Dobbins and Walker. All right.
Yeah, because McKinnon, like we talked about with Pacheco, there is still, there's no guarantee. It's far from a guarantee, and Dobbins is, I think, the lead back there, and they're just not passing at all in Baltimore. They're getting a little more healthy, at least in the wide receiver room there, but they sure haven't been putting up numbers through the air.
Okay, next we got Courtney coming in. Flex PPR, AJ Brown or Keenan Allen. Here is a tough one where AJ Brown is playing with the backup quarterback, certified stud. In most scenarios, he is a not bench. He is a do not bench your AJ Brown. However, Keenan Allen has been great. It's a full PPR league, so getting a ton of targets, and it is in a dome in Indianapolis. I think I lean Keenan Allen, but man, it's close.
And I want to hear your take because I remember earlier on in the week, as soon as the news started trickling out that Jalen Hurts may be out this week, we had to discuss how good is AJ Brown yak? How much can he make things happen on his own if they take, obviously, you have to throw almost the Philly offense out of the window from what you know, right? Because how many spies does the defensive coordinator have to put in place to try to stop Jalen Hurts? There's so many things that go into having an elite option like Jalen Hurts behind behind center there, where that's gone now. So it's just interesting because the whole Philly offense will change, and defense the coordinator can probably get a good script going against a traditional offense and a pocket passer, and they can probably try to focus on putting down AJ Brown. So I actually. In the playoffs, it's tough to say, but Keenan Allen starts looking like the better option here.
I still think AJ Brown's going to be fine. I think he's going to be just fine. He's a big option. They're going to get him involved. They're going to scheme him involved. That's not my concern. I just think that Keenan Allen could be better in that dome. And
I agree. And if it was, another option that wasn't Keenan Allen, if it was somebody mediocre, I'm not at the point where by any stretch I would say start a mediocre wide receiver over AJ Brown. Keenan Allen is elite when healthy and thrown to.
Okay. So yeah, I would start Keenan, but I don't blame you, Courtney, if you want to keep AJ Brown in there. Mac is talking about the Titans-Texans games. I mentioned that a little bit earlier when the news came out. Good to know, though. Gator fan giving his reason why. Yep, there's all kinds of reasons for and against. You need to, shoot your shot. Courtney King, Ken Walker, or Jerick McKinnon. We talked about this earlier. Scott actually would sit Jerick McKinnon down in this scenario. I'm going to take the risk out of it because McKinnon or Walker has been injured. So back spasms, there's a realm where he just doesn't get the work, and it's going to be a tough game. And maybe obviously Seattle's forced to throw more, being behind against the Chiefs. So Berlin's coming in. Would you flex Taysom Hill or Marquise Goodwin in a standard league? And I talked about Taysom Hill. I like him. I think he's going to have a really good game in that cold weather game. They're going to use him a lot, I think. Marquise Goodwin is far from a guarantee. He has been good lately. He was on the injury report this week. That means he could be limited. I'm just going to go Taysom Hill, surprisingly.
Yeah, to me, this is kind of where the tier happens because we've been toying with the idea of starting Taysom Hill all past hour. But this is, to me, where I actually would start a gadget tight end over Marquise Goodwin.
Whiteout, Scott. I saw Justin Jefferson post.
I know, man. You gotta love the NFL, right? To be a true fan, I do need to go drop a couple other $100 to have no color while I watch this game. So thank you for calling it out, Adam. I did think of that this morning while I was putting everything on. I hope it is a whiteout. I love those games.
Ben, pick a wide receiver, RB2, and a flex. Currently projected to lose. Has Fournette, Ken Walker, Akers, James Cook, Deontay Johnson, Jacoby Myers, and Drake London. Ben, I like the context that you told us that you're projected to lose. I would start Ken Walker over Leonard Fournette in my RB2 spot. As far as my wide receiver 2 spot, I would go with, between Deontay, Jacoby, and Drake London, I would go with Deontay, even in a weather game.
I don't see. Once again, and this is why context is so helpful for everybody on here who comes in every week, right? Because once again, if you're projected to lose, you got to go with that ceiling play because, hitting a stable floor is probably not going to get you the week.
Yeah,
and I agree.
So
then
Deontay doesn't have
the ceiling.
Deontay doesn't have a huge ceiling, but they're trying to force him the football. I know
they are.
They're not. They're not being successful in the red zone or in the end zone, but they're trying to force him the football. And a flex spot, I don't love any of your options. They're far from a guarantee, but I do think that Akers kind of has at least a decent floor play. Jacoby, bounce back, man. He was disappointing last week. I think I go Akers.
Yeah, I think I got to go that way as well. Okay. London for a while there looked like maybe he'd be in the discussion, but I'm not digging it right now. So I agree with those dudes.
Next, we got Crystal here. Hey guys, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you as well. Happy holidays. Would you play need RB in a flex? Mixon, McKinnon, White, Peoples-Jones, or Juwan Johnson? So I am leaving out Peoples-Jones and Juwan Johnson even after that big game. So I will start 2 running backs, and it's probably going to be McKinnon and Mixon.
Yep. Running backs by design. I mean, if you have good options there, it's hard to move away from them. And like you said, we won't even get into the weather.
Okay, let's keep it moving. We got Adam, AJ Burr coming in, Hunt or Moss, and I am going Hunt in a run-heavy game against New Orleans there. And the chance that Chubb is limited. He was hurt all week, so yeah, I like Hunt there. We got Peter coming in. Good morning, all. I'm in the semifinals. Congratulations. Do I roll out Prescott or Fields? Scotty, what do you think?
Oh, that might be quarterback. I think that's quarterback question of the week so far.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Prescott versus Philadelphia or Fields versus Buffalo. Both in theory are tough, but like I mentioned, the Philadelphia sustained drives might not be there like they have been in the past.
Yeah. I think that's for me, that is going to be the difference maker because there could be a lot of mistakes that you wouldn't expect coming from the Philly side. As we know, a short field is a quarterback and a running back's best friend in fantasy football. It doesn't matter where the touchdown comes from, if it's 1 yard or 5, really. So I think for me, that's going to tip it over. I'm a big fan of Justin Fields for fantasy purposes when he's healthy, but I think I'd be leaning Prescott.
Sounds good. YWD, a pro, what would you do? Start Watson, Smith, Pickens, London, DPJ, or James Cook. Should I start Niners or Bucks? So I'm going to go Christian Watson, and I'm going to go Devontae Smith, I think, over George Pickens. That's where I'd go with. It's kind of close with James Cook for me, but I'm not going to start London, Donovan Peoples-Jones, or Pickens. Scotty, do you lean Devontae Smith even with a backup quarterback, or would you go with like a running back like James Cook?
I mean, he's definitely got more risk involved than normal with Devontae Smith. I might lean James Cook as he's kind of emerged as the kind of, I put it he has the higher ceiling to me in that backfield now than near the start, which is why obviously Singletary has seen my bench for so long this season. It's close. I think Watson for sure. And yeah, that Niners D is looking pretty elite.
You should absolutely start the Niners D.
I don't. I mean, maybe if you could split the Bucks into 2 halves of football, and it was, can you start first half Bucks D? But it doesn't work that way. And that second half D, for what we've seen, is going to sewer you. So I'm starting Niners over
absolutely
Bucks with confidence.
We do have our super chat. Thank you. Very much. I appreciate that. And you get your question answered right away if you give us a super chat. So if you're tired of waiting and you don't want to see what we have before you, toss a super chat in because that's what we do. So we have Kirk Cousins, your Kirk Cousins, or Dak Prescott. For context, he has CeeDee Lamb, Pollard, and Justin Jefferson. So stacks on both sides of it.
Stacks on stacks on stacks.
Yeah. So Kirk Cousins plays a pretty soft, not soft, but not the hardest matchup against the Giants. Their defense has been pretty solid. They're both playoff teams right now. And then obviously Dak Prescott plays a very difficult defense for the Eagles. I would say they're both very good plays, or both are good plays. Very good is the question. Who do you trust more, Scotty? Don't be biased here. Do you actually think that Dak Prescott has the higher ceiling than Kirk Cousins? He's got to win this matchup and is paying for it.
You know, he's paying. It doesn't. I don't want to sound biased as I'm here in all purple, but you know, based on my rankings, like Kirk Cousins is incredibly close. We're talking neck and neck, right? I do have Kirk Cousins higher in this week's ranking against the Giants. Philly's D is, you know, it is not a joke. The Giants are not a terrible defense either, but it's tough. But I could still see Kirk Cousins coming away with more fantasy points this week against the G-men than I think against the Eagles.
As a non-purple wearing host here, I think Kirk Cousins should be very good as well. And having that stack with Justin Jefferson is great. I know you have that as well with Dak, but maybe the handoff to Pollard's come his way. CeeDee Lamb will get his, no question. But I think Kirk Cousins should be a good play. After that week last week, it's hard to go away from that.
Yeah, it's hard to sit down a 400-yard quarterback, even if he got it in one half of football.
That's true.
Imagine two halves of that. I'm kidding.
What's that?
So he did that in one half of football. Imagine if he could do what he could do over two halves.
For sure. Well, he was in all the games.
I'm aware.
Yeah. Austin, Denver or Baltimore, both are very, very good options. Hopefully y'all liked our defense show this week. We're going to keep doing that and do that all next season because that's such an important spot. People stream defenses every week. Not everyone just plays the Vikings every week. So most of y'all really appreciate a defensive rankings show. So Denver or Baltimore, both are very, very good. So Denver plays the Rams, and we know what Baker Mayfield is and does, takes a ton of sacks. And then Baltimore plays Atlanta, a team that can run the ball very efficiently, but does have Desmond Ridder starting at quarterback, who also takes a bunch of sacks. Man, it's a coin flip because these are like top two defenses of the week here. Do you have a lean, Scotty?
I think
Baltimore is where
I'm also looking at the weather a little bit. I mean, it is in Baltimore.
At the Rams, so it's going to be that.
And Atlanta's playing at Baltimore, so they don't have that dome to protect them like they do at all home games. Yeah. Baltimore's, it's like you said. I think you're in good shape either way. I don't see your defense losing you the week. I do think Baltimore has a bit more upside there. It's going to be outside. It's going to be cold, and both quarterbacks love to get sacked, so they just hold on to the ball too long. So I could see you having a good week either way. I'm leaning Baltimore.
Noah Fant or Otten is the second part of this question. Noah Fant has had some good games. It's at Kansas City. They should be forced to throw the football. The weather is cold in Kansas City, but not too bad. Cade Otten was a target for Tom Brady. They play the Cardinals, which that's the top matchup for any tight end on the season. So I would say that Noah Fant had an injury this week. His knee was banged up. He is likely to play as per Pete Carroll. I'm seeing this right now. Last week, he got 6 targets, 5 receptions, had only 32 yards. I think I just go Cade Otten against the Cardinals.
Now, the questionable tag does make things a little more definitely more complex. I feel like if he was fully healthy, I would still be looking at
Noah Fant is the better. I mean, he's been in the league for a while. We know he's a good talent in the NFL.
I mean, he's still my rankings. He's still my ranking start over Cade Otten. So I think I'd still go Noah Fant. You have to watch. You have to watch right up to game time though to make sure he's as healthy as can be. Yep. I mean, it's not like Otten's going to be a locked and loaded tight end play, like almost any Buccaneer got in that offense.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everyone. Toss a like on the video if you don't want to wait around. toss a super chat just like Austin did. And by Zinski did as well. So I will get back. We do answer every single question today. Kicks, Fiend 30. I need a flex. Jamal Williams, Chris Moore, or George Pickens, or Cole Kmet. I'm going to go Jamal Williams there. Kicks.
Yeah, same. I think that's the tier breaker. Running back, and we do know he has the potential to get you a ton of points on like 4 or 5 carries. It's just whether the game script's going to go that way.
Snap Army member Brandon Phillips coming in. Thank you for coming by. Good morning. Happy holidays. Holding it down on Christmas Eve. Most of my team plays today, so I have a few questions. Let's go to all of his questions. Josh Allen or Justin Herbert? Oh, I'm going Josh Allen.
I'm also going Josh Allen.
Best quarterback in
almost every week. I'm just saying Josh Allen because, my God, when he's healthy, what a man.
I mean, Mahomes and obviously Hurts had a phenomenal season, but yes, I'm going Josh Allen. And then he's got Andrews or Waller. Apparently, Brandon just has a stacked team. We answered this question earlier. You may have picked Waller up off of the waivers because he was on IR for most of the year. I'm going to go with Andrews and just close my eyes and hope he returns back to form. It's a tough one. And that's we already answered Kick's question. David here. Chark, Akers, or Deebo Samuel, 50-50 split on the projection. I'm going to go with Cam Akers in this one. I'm not a huge Curtis Samuel fan. DJ Chark, although I think you should start him, Scotty, still has that bust potential like we've seen week in and week out. He also has the boom potential too. I mean, the Lions passed the football so well, but I'm still going to go with Cam Akers. Scotty, do you lean a different way?
No, I mean, as you know, at least right now, I'm still sitting Chark, and I haven't really been a Curtis Samuel believer. McLaurin can always kind of take that away from him, as he is the WR1 there. So yeah, nothing's locked, but I do think Cam Akers, when he shows up, can always be a threat.
And since my whole team plays today, I want to play Mike Williams, take advantage of that Monday night matchup. Would you sit DK Metcalf or CeeDee Lamb? No, I wouldn't. Brandon has a stacked team. This must be a shallow 6 to 18.
I was going to say he is the draft of. He had the draft of the year, or this must be a shallow league.
Or he traded away all of his picks for players.
Going for it all.
Yeah, I do think Mike Will is a good spot. He is in a good weather game. I think Mike Will is great, but we know that Mike Williams can bust your team. So I'm not going to – I like Mike Williams as a start. I'm playing him. I like having that Monday night game to sweat, but it's fine. Having everything over by the end of today is completely fine. So
it's like stacks, they're fun, but they don't give you more mathematically, they don't give you an advantage. It's fun having a Monday night game to watch, but it doesn't actually impact who's the better start. I prefer not
to have to sweat on Monday, although it's fun. Like, I'd rather it all be over with and don't need to worry.
My least favorite is actually when my opponent has 1 or 2 players on Monday night, because then I have to watch the whole Monday night game, and I just want it to end. Yes. I'm cheering for the clock. I want the clock to keep rolling, right? Yeah. Like, it's at least when you're cheering for your guy or your guys, you want the game to never end and go to overtime. The worst is being like, I hope this game ends soon.
Berlin, I share my rankings every week to our Snap Army members. We've been starting to do rankings come playoff time. So you have to join the Snap Army to get all the weekly rankings from me. So
absolutely,
that is one of the benefits,
and it's one of our many membership benefits.
Here we go. Need confirmation: 1 flex, PPR, Monty or Hopkins. I need the safest floor. Also, are you considering benching the GOAT, Justin Tucker, or grabbing someone off waivers with better weather? Well, this is a question for Scotty. I will go with Montgomery for the floor. You say you need a safe floor play. Montgomery it is. With the backup quarterback in Arizona, I am not going to start Hopkins with a ton of confidence despite how good he's been. So yeah, Trace McSorley just doesn't instill confidence with me. As far as the GOAT, Justin Tucker.
As far as the GOAT?
I depending on your options, I would consider a warm weather kicker. That's typically, if you have a deep bench, caveat, a deep bench to maybe have both 2 kickers on the field. I would go with like a Cameron Dicker at Indianapolis. Like I would try to find a dome. I think there's a far safer floor for a kicker in those matchups. I know Scotty does not believe that though.
Yeah, this is just, sometimes we all have different strategies. And once again, the only reason I'm rolling out Justin Tucker this week, which is why Landon said this, is I do think he's the GOAT. And I do think, I think he is just such a better positional player than almost everybody else in the league by a large margin. So
didn't he miss 2 kicks last week?
He did. Yes. It was a huge news because he missed 2 field goals. And if I remember, I think one was blocked. That's how good he is that's news. So I'm willing to start him because I think even in bad weather games, I think they will, especially the Ravens with that offense. I do think they'll look for him for those 55-yard field goals that other kickers, sometimes I just think say we're going for it on 4th. Justin Tucker, anything within 65 yards, and they'll give him a shot.
And you know what? It's only 10 to 50 mile an hour winds.
It's not a gale force hurricane there.
It's not a hurricane. I would probably start Justin Tucker, but
for me, the only thing about kickers is what is their range that it seems the coach is willing to say we'll trot him out and give him a shot, and he's the GOAT. So within 70 yards, it seems there's always a chance they'll bring Tucker out.
Have you played golf in a gale force wind, Scotty?
No.
You know how the best players in the world, it affects the ball. Like
that's why I said it's not a gale force hurricane.
No, but if we got news that it was 20-25 miles an hour, you still wouldn't.
Well, Tucker's only missed how many field goals this whole season, and he's played in quite a lot of different weather. So
has he played in 25 mile an hour winds this year? Can you say that?
Well, I don't know. I'll have to double check, but he hasn't played in perfect weather every week for like 2 years. So right. I'm going with the GOAT.
Okay.
I hope everyone enjoyed that 3-minute kicker conversation.
Good evening, Stuart, coming from the UK. Appreciate you. Hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Without Hurts, my options are Goff and Brady, possibly Cousins, depending on a trade. I love the late round trades or late season trades, especially in dynasty leagues where, say, if you're out of it, you can make a deal. Say you lost a Jonathan Taylor. If you want to trade him away in a first-round pick and try to get an elite running back, an older, aging Derrick Henry, for example, I think that's a great strategy. So, with that being said, Goff is a great option. Brady's a good option. And Cousins also, we've talked about him already, is a very good option versus New York Giants. So, my rankings would probably, Brady and Carr are very close. They're both top 12-ish running or quarterbacks this week. I think, Jared Goff's been so good. I think I just lean Goff, even though Carolina's defense has been good, over Tom Brady, but barely. And then I do have Cousins ranked the higher of the 3.
Yeah, no, you broke it down well. And yeah, Goff this second half of the season. There's a reason that they're pushing for the playoffs when everybody obviously thought at this point they'd be looking for that number 1 spot in the draft. So I would say Goff has the hot hand. Brady is, although passing a ton, he's getting, there's a lot of questions flying around. This is the worst season he's had since he tore the ACL. So
I do like Brady this week, though.
I think everything looks like he should be good, and this would be almost any other year you'd be starting him with confidence, but there is that little bit of doubt when things start to go awry.
And as far as your tight end question, I'm going Knox after that big game last week. I think you got to stick with Knox, and Firemuth had a donut, so that's just an easy pivot to Dawson Knox. YWD is asking to follow up. I got Brady, Watson, and Aaron Rodgers as my top pickup, but Purdy is in there.
Could do worse.
I would go Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think I would as well.
Okay. Let's keep it moving.
Let's keep it moving.
Tate, PPR start 2. Fournette, Rashad White, Peterson, Moss. Tate, I don't love any of your options, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not going to start both Bucks running back, so I'd probably go Fournette and Patterson.
Oh. I love it. And Austin coming flying out of the gate here with a little super chat love on Christmas Eve. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And I would go Chase McLaughlin, no question. Do not start Myers, even though he's a good kicker, and 25-mile-an-hour winds. Go with McLaughlin in a dome. And of course, you didn't put up Mackenzie.
Little super chat from Mackenzie coming through. Bench Justin Tucker, caps. I feel I will be keeping quite an eye on Justin Tucker's fantasy performance this week.
There we go.
Because there may be a roast of Scott on next week's stream.
Miles Sanders or J.K. Dobbins? Here's a great question. In theory, you would think that the Eagles will feature Miles Sanders this week without Jalen Hurts. J.K. Dobbins has been running very clean lately, and the Baltimore Ravens have a great matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, boy, I think I just lean J.K. Dobbins, which is crazy to think how good Miles Sanders has been all season long. He busted you last week with maybe a 1-point game. So just stay in the flames here with J.K. Dobbins. Scotty, are you going to trust Miles Sanders again?
No, I'm actually going to go J.K. Dobbins as well. And the reason is what we've discussed about it. If there is hiccups in the Philly offense, you'd think going to a backup quarterback means he'll rely heavily on the backfield. But if it doesn't work out the way you want it to, we could see a lot of 3-and-outs. And no matter what the reliance is on the running backs, that doesn't bode well for the touchdowns you need or enough carry opportunities, especially if they start playing from behind, which – if this doesn't go the way you want it to, they could be trying to play catch-up football. And I think Dobbins has looked really, really good.
Yeah, love it. Merry Christmas Eve, DJ Duvernay. Thank you for coming in. Thanks, everyone, for coming in. Make sure to toss a like on the video. We will get to every single question today before 1 p.m. So, yeah, next week will be our last live of the year. So Mac will be back, hopefully. I guess I don't know if he'll be back home for... the new year. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Hopefully he'll be somewhere where he's not driving through ice and snow and just trying to stay on the road. But I appreciate that he got a super chat off while trying to drive. So
worst case, your boy Lando will be here. David, we have Njoku, Hunter Henry, or Logan Thomas for tight end. That's a very tough question. Njoku is in the weather game. Now, in theory, short yardage passes should favor Njoku. We have Hunter Henry, who's been just a regular. They all have been bad tight ends. I think I just go Njoku here. David.
I do too. I was going to say, Hunter Henry gets looked at occasionally, and he does have a bit higher of a floor. But out of these three, Njoku is like the superior athlete. I'm always impressed when I actually get to watch a bit of Browns football. He is such a good option when he's healthy, and he seems to be right now. I would be starting Njoku as he just has the actual athletic ability to turn something into a touchdown from nothing. So I'm going to Njoku.
And Brandon gives us some context. 8-team league, master of the art of trades. And lastly, Najee or Aaron Jones. I actually very much like Najee Harris this week, but I'm not starting him over Aaron Jones.
Agreed. AJ Dillon, concussion protocol, his biggest, the biggest blocker for Aaron Jones. You got to think they're not going to try to run Dillon into another concussion at his age and importance for their franchise.
No trade deadline, so it's arms race. Yeah, I get it. We're in
that's fun.
Gridiron League with Mac. It gets to be an arm race at trade deadline time and trading away first round picks left, right, and center. Merry Christmas, Warren, my friend. Coming in. No questions this week. I hope you made the semifinals, but it doesn't sound like it, so you don't have any questions. So you probably listened to us and went with the wrong choice. Peter, for tight end, do I trust Schultz or go for broke with Juwan Johnson? Both give me anxiety every week. I feel that. I'm going to go with Schultz this week. I think he's still a very good option. We talked about it. More time of possession for the Dallas Cowboys. I think Schultz gets in the end zone this week. He's a top-ranked tight end for me.
Yeah, it's anxiety, but I got nothing to counter that.
Yeah. Michael, Komet or Everett, and that's an easy Everett answer for me. No question. Go with Everett Monday night in a dome. This is what you want. Gator fan, Browns, Broncos, Rams, Bengals defense. I'm going with the Broncos.
Yep.
I like the Browns, but the Broncos are in a little bit better spot.
Yeah, it's close.
Hi, guys. Thanks again this season. You are very welcome. They have a question. Full PPR projected to win. I need a running back. Akers or Dillon or Moss. So, concussion protocol, Scotty. AJ Dillon or Cam Akers? Because I'm sitting Moss from that list for sure.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sitting Moss. Oh boy, neither of them are locks. Cam Akers is the lead back.
Tough matchup, though.
Yeah, tough matchup
against Denver.
Man, I guess if it's Akers against Dillon, I still would have to go Dillon. I mean, he did get, you look at what he did before he went out. Like I said, you have to think they're going to try to protect him a bit, but it is football. And sometimes you think they're going to just try to protect the player.
Can still make the playoffs.
Yeah. So he's cleared. He's not even on the injury report. So
there you go.
I'm going Dillon.
Dillon. The volume will be there for Akers, but tougher matchup. Less opportunities for touchdowns. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Gluck Guy. What's up, guys? Higgins, Hopkins, or Mike Williams, or Juju? I like Higgins probably the most, but it's close between Mike Williams and T. Higgins for me. Yes, I'm going to sit down Hopkins, surprisingly, in that weather game. So not
Hopkins
weather,
and Juju.
Quarterback.
Yeah, Hopkins and Juju don't compete with me on that. Very tight between Williams and Higgins, but after the letdown we saw with the Buccaneers defense, I think I'd be starting him.
Which one? Sorry,
I think I could see Higgins having a good game against them. Yeah,
I like it. Geno, Purdy, or Minshew this week, Austin. I think I would go with Geno Smith against the game where they should be passing from behind most of the game.
Yeah, I think two of those options are pretty big question marks. At least with Geno, essentially what you're going to get, and I think I'd roll him out over those two big question marks.
Sounds good. We got asking that question again. Yeah, Njoku is insane. Got him in so many leagues. Thanks again for the insight. You're very welcome. And then Gator Fan giving us a thank you for your hard work. We appreciate y'all. We'll stick around for another couple minutes, but we're going to stop this about 10 minutes early because we got to set our own lineups. Spend time with the family.
It's the playoffs, baby.
Put some Baileys in our coffees and get it going. Good luck, everyone, for your fantasy semifinals. I hope y'all make it to the finals. Like I mentioned, next week is our last live of the season. Mack and I will go live periodically and talk about the year, but I know that the numbers will drop off considerably. But either way, good luck. Appreciate y'all. If you want to say thank you, drop a super chat. But either way, we appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for coming by every single week. Any parting words from producer Scott?
Good luck to all. Happy holidays. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to all. And we'll be at it bright and early for championship week next week and having a lot of fun doing it. So happy holidays to your family and all.
Sounds good. Couple last questions here before we sign off. Starting Godwin as my I like Godwin this week. Godwin or Watson. I still like Godwin over Watson. I do like Christian Watson a lot this week as well, though. So it's a tough one, especially in a full PPR. Godwin gets way more targets. Stevenson or Connor. I think I got to stick with Stevenson. He looked really, really good last week. Ramondre against Cincinnati should be great. Ceiling for Gardner Minshew or Davis Mills this week. Yeah, I like Gardner Minshew is probably where I'd go. Not a huge Davis Mills guy. Last question.
Ceiling's not sky high for either, but
ceiling's not sky high for sure. Start three. Waddle, Godwin, McKinnon, Kamara, Zeke, Swift. Waddle and Godwin are in for sure, and I think I would just stay in the flames with Jerick McKinnon. Edward.
Wow. Yeah. Sign of the times. I agree.
Wow. Sitting Kamara.
Look at that. Swift. Look at that list. Kamara, Zeke, Swift.
You drafted all those three running backs ahead of McKinnon by a mile, and we're going to
not by a mile. That's a waiver pickup. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Good luck, everyone. If you do have more questions, join our Discord. You can discuss on Discord. We have a game day chat, and we will be sweating it with you this week. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Justin Tucker.
Goodbye.